Famo! Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Ernest Adiano. As I always say, the channel's name is The Third Ernest. Y'all guys are the third fam and potential third fam if you are not subscribed yet. But as you may know, we are on to song number 2 on the Michael Young History Saga that Lupe Fiasco has laid out for us over his debut and sophomore album. And this song, The Cool, is the second song in the saga, and it's the last song on Food and Liquor. Now this song here is probably one of my favorite, and the reason for it is going to be because he lays out the most vivid picture I've ever seen. Every time I hear this song, I can just visualize the music video, or I can visualize what's happening as if it were happening right in front of me. It's like when you read a novel and there's like just 3 paragraphs of like descriptive wording. That's almost the amount of detail that this song has when it comes to allowing you to paint the picture inside of your mind on what's happening. Now this song, The Cool, is the introduction to the character The Cool, which I mentioned on the first video, which if you haven't seen that video, you might want to see it because there's a specific order that this is laid out in. But if you saw the picture of The Cool from the last video, you realize that The Cool is everything that's alluring about the street life. He's the one that all these kids want to try to emulate and try to be, and ending up getting killed in the streets and becoming another victim of the game. And that's the point of this entire saga, the rise and fall of Michael Young history and how he got trapped in the Bermuda Triangle that is the game, the streets, and The Cool. But yo, let's just go ahead and jump on into it because I'm excited. This song's got one of my favorite bars of all time of any rapper ever because of the visualization and the wordplay and the creativity that's within that 3 bars of like the beginning of the second verse. And I'll point it out when we get there, but it's fire. Before we hop in though, I do want to plug the Patreon. If you're in a position to monetarily support the channel in any way, and it's something that you feel like you would get some kind of benefit out of, the Patreon does have exclusive benefits other than the free videos that are on YouTube. Go to the Patreon link that I leave in the description, the first line of the description, if you want to see what that's all about. The reason I bring the Patreon up is because towards the end of the month, I'm going to be releasing and making the videos that are specifically requested by the Patreons that qualify in the immediate family tier to get 1 request a month for their own video to be done. But that's really it. Let's go ahead and pop on into this shit, fam. See what we got.
Yeah. The Cool. Turn me up. Yeah. He came back in the same suit that he was buried in, similar to the one his grandfather was married in. Yes, he was still fresh to death, blang 2 earrings, a chain laying on his chest. He still had it cause they couldn't find it, and the bullets from his enemies sat like 2 inches behind it. Smelled the Hennessy from when his niggas got reminded, and poured out liquor in his memory. He didn't mind it, but he couldn't.
The visualizations from the jump. He says he came back in the same suit that he was buried in. So automatically we know that we're talking about The Cool, because if you remember the image of The Cool, he's literally in a suit. So he came back in the same suit that he was buried in. So you know we're talking about The Cool and how he's a zombie and how he's a resurrected being because The Cool never dies. He was still fresh to death. The irony of the line, because he's dead, but he's not dead, but he's still fresh to death. Blang 2 earrings, a chain laying on his chest, and he still had it because they couldn't find it. And the bullets from his enemy sat like 2 inches behind it. 2 inches behind his chest is his heart. He was shot in the heart. And anytime someone who's cool falls victim to the streets and falls victim to the game and their little manipulative ways that they have, they send their goons to come back and take back that chain so that way they can give it to the next. Because that chain is what makes the person cool. That chain has all the power. And that's why he says he still had it because they couldn't find it. Because the game in the streets had their goons, had their ops looking for it, but they didn't realize that he was buried with it. And he smelled the Hennessy from when his people got reminded, like they got reminded of, and so they poured out Hennessy into the casket. It's a very common theme in the street life and in the hood that whenever one of your closest friends or whenever your street brothers or street brethren falls victim to the game, you pour one out because he's not there to share and indulge in that Hennessy or in that alcohol with you. So you pour out a shot for him and then you just spill it on the ground. All I ever hear whenever I hear this song, what would this look like if it were a music video? And it's extremely easy to picture it because Lupe's laying it all out for us. The narrative has a lot of visual description, so it's easy to picture it in your mind.
Poured out liquor in his memory, he didn't mind it, but he couldn't sip it fast enough. So the liquor was just filling the casket up. Floating down by his feet was the letter from his sister. Second grade handwriting, simply read, I miss ya. Suit jacket pocket held his baby daughter's picture. Right next to it, one of his men stuck a swisher. He had a notion as he laid there soaking. He saw that the latch was broken. He kicked his casket open and he, this life goes past me.
The visualizations are so crazy. Like the cool had a lot of friends or a lot of fake friends, because that's what happens whenever you gain that popularity. You become really cool and you become really popular. And so on your passing, everybody's pouring liquor out. So he got so much liquor being poured out, he can't even drink it fast enough. It's just filling the casket up to the point where the letter that his little sister left him is floating around in the casket. It's not just there in the casket, it's floating. And now the visuals become kind of somber. Like we remember that he had family that was left behind because he was taken in the streets. He had a little sister that misses him. He's got a picture of his baby daughter in his pocket, who obviously is now fatherless. But then we go right back to the cool shit, like, oh, we just ignore the baby daughter thing, but right next to it, one of his men stuck a swisher. He had a notion as he laid there soaking, he saw that the latch was broken, he kicked his casket open. All I ever picture when I hear this song is the music video that's playing in my head. It's like the cool just wakes up, like doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's like, where am I? I'm in this casket, I have this suit on, I smell copious amounts of Hennessy, so much that I'm floating in it, trying to stop myself from drowning in it. I left my family behind, but that doesn't matter. Like, what do I gotta do to get the cool back? I see that the latch to this casket is broken. Let me go ahead and kick it open so I can get back to the life that I was once living.
This life goes passing you by. It might go fast if you lie. You born, you live, then you die. Oh, 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 oh. If life goes passing you by, don't cry. If you're breaking the rules, making your moves, paying your dues. Chasing the cool, not at all.
If you die, it don't matter, because you die chasing the cool. And that's what matters in the hood. Get rich or die trying. You're born, you live, and then you die. Life's a bitch and then you die. That's why we get high, because you never know when you're gonna go. So many different ways that all these artists say the same thing. That was Nas, by the way. It don't matter how you live if you were chasing the cool, because that's all that really ever mattered in life. Who needs family? Who needs friends? As long as you're balling out, or as long as you die trying to ball out, which you eventually will die, you paid your dues of the game. You died for the reasons he wanted you to. And those reasons are vanity, and you basically died in vain and you didn't live your life to its fullest potential. But that doesn't matter because you were cool. But right here coming up on the first part of the second verse, it's my favorite part right here.
Chasing the cool, not at all nervous as he dug to the surface. Tarnished gold chain is what he loosened up the earth with. He used his mouth as a shovel to try and hollow it, and when he couldn't dirt spit, he swallowed it, working like a reverse archaeologist. Except his buried treasure was sunshine, so when some shine through a hole that he had drove, it reflected off the gold and almost made some blind. He grabbed onto some.
Boy, that creativity in those bars right there. Like, who even thinks to say that a zombie or a dead person trying to climb out of their casket is acting and behaving like a reverse archaeologist? Where the buried treasure, which is what an archaeologist is normally going to be digging for, is sunshine, because we're under the ground, so we're digging upwards. His tarnished gold chain is what he used to loosen up the earth and use his mouth as a shovel to try to hollow it. And when he couldn't spit dirt or dirt spit, he swallowed it. Just the imagination and just the visualizations that Lupe gives me in this song is like crazy. Working like a reverse archaeologist, except his buried treasure was sunshine. Sun. Literally.
Hole that he had drove, it reflected off the gold and almost made some blind. He grabbed onto some grass and climbed, pulled himself up out of his own grave and looked at the time on the watch that had stopped 6 months after the shots that had got him in the box, wringing Henny out his socks. Figured it was hours because he wasn't older. Used some flowers to brush the dirt up off his shoulders. So with a right hand that was all bones and no reason to stay, he decided to walk home. So this life goes passing you.
He grabbed some grass to climb out of the hole, looked at the time on the watch that had stopped 6 months after the shots that had got him in the box. He figured he was hours because he wasn't older. He doesn't know that the clock stopped 6 months ago because he had gotten any older, because now he's a zombie and zombies don't age. Obviously, he's dead. So now his perception of reality is all fucked up. And that's important because his perception of reality before he died was all fucked up. That's why he was slain in the streets. Because he thought that that's what mattered. He thought that that was the true purpose of reality. When in fact, it was his little sister that said, I miss you. And when in fact, it was his baby daughter that had the picture in his pocket. Those were his realities that he should have been focusing on. Use some flowers to brush the dirt up off his shoulders. You see these visuals? Like, imagine just like him like this, like fixing his suit, grabbing some flowers off the grave, because obviously people leave flowers at grave sites. All right, let's go.
Chasing the He begged for some change to get him on the train. Damn, the nigga stank is what they complain. Tried to light the blunt, but it burst into flames. Caught the reflection in the window of what he became. A long look, wasn't shook, wasn't ashamed. Matter of fact, only thing on his brain was brains. Yeah.
Only thing on his brain was brains? Because he's lost his skull? Because he's decaying? But literally only thing on his brain was brains, like getting some brain, but also literally his reflection, he doesn't have a skull, so it's just brain. And now he's a beggar begging for some change to get him on the train so he can go home, but everybody that he's asking for money from is like looking at him sideways like he looks stacked. Like, why is he begging for change? Look at him. He's got this gold chain on. He's got this suit. He's got this Rolex. He's got the 2 earrings. But he's begging for change because you can't take money with you when you die. That money is meaningless. So now he doesn't have any money anymore. So now he's starting over from scratch. Probably didn't realize that he couldn't take it with him. But as he was walking home, he caught his reflection in the window and saw what he had become. And he gave it a long look, but he didn't feel shook. He wasn't scared. He wasn't ashamed. Because none of it mattered. All that he cared about was getting back into the game, because that's the hold that it had on him. It's crazy.
Matter of fact, only thing on his brain was brains. Yeah, and getting back in his lane, doing his thing. First he had to find something to slang. Next stop was his block. It had the same cops. Walked right past the same spot where he was shot. Shocked that some little niggas tried to sell him rocks. It just felt weird being on the opposite. They figured that he wasn't from there, so they pulled out and robbed him with the same gun they shot him with. Put it to his head and said, "You scared, ain't you?" He said, "Hustler for death, no heaven for a gangster." This life goes passing you.
Bruh, now you realize why he never made it out of the casket. Now you realize why his soul never ascended into the heavens. Because there is no heaven for a gangster. You're stuck in this perpetual loop of dying, coming back, trying to get back into the game, dying, coming back, trying to get back into the game, dying. This sounds like hell for most people, but it's probably heaven to a G. First thing after he realized that he was dead, wasn't shook, wasn't ashamed, had to go find some rocks to get back into his lane so he could start slanging again. Because that's all that ever mattered in his previous life, and that's all that's ever going to matter in his next life. And as he was trying to find the product, he was shocked that some little homies tried to sell him rocks, and it felt weird being on the opposite end of the transaction. Like, he had always been the man. He had always been the one that was screwing up the lives of all of his fiends, but he didn't care because all he was worried about was the money. Now it was weird being on the other end. And they figured that he wasn't from there, so they pulled out. They stopped the transaction and they pulled out the tool and they robbed him with the same gun that they shot him with. So the same gun that had got him in the box before the song even started is now the same gun that he's being robbed with. They put it to his head and said, "You scared, ain't you?" He said, "Hustler for death," because now he knows he's dead, so it's no longer hustler for life. Now it's hustler for death because he's never going to be alive again. Yeah. That song, creatively, one of the best songs I've ever heard. The bars, the visualizations that he's given us, the storytelling he's telling us about what happened from the opening of the casket to being robbed and killed again to going back into a new casket. It's crazy because we saw the entire life of somebody, even though he was living life in death. The hustler for death line is a bar. No heaven for a gangster, that's a bar. Reverse archaeologist, his buried treasure was sunshine. That's a bar. He still had the chain because they couldn't find it, and the bullets from his enemies that killed him sat 2 inches behind it. That's a bar, because he didn't say he got shot in the heart. He could have easily said that. He said it sat 2 inches behind the chain because the chain is extremely important to the storyline. Song gets me every time. But yo, that was the introduction to the Cool. And the Cool is obviously an extremely important character the rest of the way because Lupe Fiasco's next album is called The Coolest. So you know he's an important character in the story. But yo, I hope y'all guys like that song as much as I did, especially if it's your first time hearing it. And everybody that's here, the couple of thousand people compared to the tens of 20s of 40s thousands of people that are on the NF videos, I appreciate y'all guys for rocking, and I hope that y'all are learning as to why I think this dude is top 5 lyricists of all time. And the ones that are here rocking with the channel on non-popular songs are definitely the realest, because that means y'all guys are here for the channel and y'all are here for me and the family itself. That means a lot. But once again, thank everybody for watching. Consider becoming a Patreon by checking the Patreon link down at the bottom and seeing what's going on over there. We got a Q&A that I'm going to be recording here soon. I'm about to ask the Patreons for what questions they want answered. And that Q&A is Patreon exclusive only. It will never hit the YouTube channel. If you're here just on YouTube exclusively, consider sharing the videos around because that'll show your support for the channel without it having to be a monetary donation. But I appreciate everybody being here. Like I always say, thank y'all guys for spending the time watching my channel. Love and care for each other, and I'll see y'all guys in the next video. Peace.